Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to take a completely different look at a super common, everyday frustration and reframe it into a fascinating peek into our own biological design. Seriously, if you've ever felt totally betrayed by your own memory, you are in exactly the right place.
Okay, picture this highly familiar scenario. It's early Monday morning. You suddenly realize you completely forgot to pick up your dry cleaning. Now you're running late because, of course, you cannot find your keys anywhere. And to top the whole thing off, you finally sit down at your computer and realize you have absolutely no idea what your Facebook password is, even though you've typed it, 1,000 times? As you start to panic, it just feels like your memory simply sucks. We have all been there, right?
But here is the wild truth. Your brain is actually designed to forget. It really is. And this perfectly illustrates our core premise today. Losing all these little details is actually a built-in feature of your brain. It's not necessarily a bad thing at all. In fact, it is highly intentional. Here is our roadmap for the explainer today. 1. The everyday forgetting problem. 2. Psychology of losing memories. 3. A molecular street fight. 4. The ninja worm experiment. And 5. The upside of forgetting. Section 1. The everyday forgetting problem, the daily frustration of memory lapses. Let's see how this all builds from that awful, sinking feeling of misplacing our keys. Section 2. Psychology of losing memories. Why do we lose information? To really begin understanding this, we've got to look at the psychological theories that try to make sense of why that password just vanishes from your mind. So there are two main psychological models at play here. First up is decay theory, which suggests that over time, the traces of our memories simply fade away passively. They just sort of evaporate. Then we have interference theory, which suggests new memories actively compete with existing ones. Think of it like this. When you learn new information that's kind of similar to a memory you already have, that new information actively interferes with your ability to recall the older stuff. They're literally fighting for space in your head. And, well, of course, there is a third option. Sometimes we simply didn't even store the thought as a memory in the first place. It literally went in one ear and out the other. But neuroscientists actually suggest that a lot of these psychological theories, decay, interference, and just storage failure, could actually be deeply intertwined. Section 3. A molecular street fight, the tiny proteins battling in your brain. To see exactly how these theories overlap, we have to transition from psychology to biology and zoom way, way in. First, I want you to meet Musashi. Musashi is literally a forgetting protein in our brains. Its entire job, its whole purpose, is to mess with the function of our synapses. And just as a quick refresher, synapses are those structures that let your nerve cells communicate with each other. Musashi deliberately disrupts that communication. But Musashi isn't acting alone in there. In the other corner of the ring is a protein called adenosine. Adenosine has the exact opposite effect. Instead of messing with the synapses, it actively stimulates the growth of those exact same communication structures. So remembering and forgetting our thoughts is essentially a microscopic street fight between Musashi and adenosine. The absolute crucial point here is that their interaction dictates everything. Whether our thoughts are transmitted across our synapses, stabilized, and stored permanently depends entirely on who wins this molecular tug of war. Section 4. The ninja worm experiment. What happens when we remove Musashi? This dynamic raises a fascinating question. What happens if the forgetting protein just loses entirely? Well, in a really striking study, researchers genetically modified ringworms. Let's just call them teenage mutant ninja worms. So their brains contained absolutely zero Musashi. The results were amazing. Both the regular worms and the mutant worms learned new information perfectly fine. But the mutant worms, the ones without the forgetting protein, had significantly better recall. Without Musashi, they simply didn't forget. Now, by removing this forgetting protein in a lab setting, we learn so much about how the actual machinery of memory works. And this research is incredibly important because it could eventually help us understand devastating disorders where people involuntarily lose their memories, like Alzheimer's. It might even teach us how to treat them one day. But for our everyday lives, there's a catch. We obviously can't just go surgically removing Musashi from human brains to give ourselves superpowered memories. Section 5. The upside of forgetting. Why losing information keeps us flexible. So you might be wondering, why can't we just hack our brains to never forget anything? I mean, why wouldn't evolution have just phased Musashi out completely? Well, it turns out our brains forget on purpose. We actually need to forget. That biological ability to lose information is exactly what keeps our brains flexible. If our minds weren't flexible, we literally wouldn't have the capacity to absorb new things. Just imagine for a second what would happen if we didn't forget. We'd constantly be recalling all kinds of random, extraneous information. Every tiny detail of every single day would be fighting for your attention at all times. Because of that overwhelming flood of data, we would be entirely unable to focus on the present moment. Look, forgetting your passwords or misplacing your keys is definitely frustrating, for sure, but it is totally normal. As we go about our daily lives, our brain is doing some serious heavy lifting behind the scenes. We're subconsciously finding this incredibly delicate balance between remembering what's actually important and forgetting what isn't, just so we can function in the world. There's a brilliant quote from our source material that hits the nail on the head. Forgetting actually helps you remember. So the next time you have a brain fart or a little slip of the mind, don't panic. Remember that this biological cleanup process isn't a failure of your mind at all, it's a feature. It's exactly what allows you to clear the clutter and hold on to the memories that truly matter. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to consider. How might actively accepting your own forgetfulness and letting go of all that extraneous information help you stay more focused and present in your daily life today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you walk away with a newfound appreciation for your brilliant, forgetful brain.